Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. For today's midweek meta deck, we are playing Frijat's Grixis Tempo deck. This is a pretty classic build of Grixis Tempo that you would see a lot of time at the moment. Now you might be saying it doesn't look very red, so is it really Grixis-y? Well, we may only have one red card in the main, but we do have quite a lot in the sideboard, and there is quite a distinct difference in how this deck plays out because of those cards compared to regular blue-black Tempo. So, we've got a bunch of threats. We've got Nethergoyf and Tamiyo for early pressure. Now, Tamiyo doesn't pressure our opponent's life total, but it does pressure them in terms of the amount of cards we have to interact with them, and the ultimate of this does basically win the game. We've got Orcish Bowmasters, a nice disruptive threat. We all know and love it. Barrowgoyf, probably the biggest, baddest creature that people are chucking into their decks to cast fairly at the moment. It really does a lot of work. And Kaito can just completely flip games because you just have this card that is so hard to deal with, and it can lock down creatures and just win the game really handily. We've got some counter magic and forces and dazes. We've got some interaction in the form of fail pushes, Thoughtseizes, the one-off Molten Collapse, and the Brazen Borrower. And we've got a bunch of cantrips, and these cantrips will also include some Mishra's Baubles, which helps our type in our graveyard for our Nethergoyf and our Barrowgoyf. Mana base wise, we can only fit in 3 Wastelands in a mana base looking like this. We have our 1 Volcanic Island and our 1 Badlands. We just got a couple of red sources, so we need to be careful when we're fetching them. We do have a Surveil land and a basic still. Sideboard wise, we've got some Hydroblast, we got some Force of Negation, we've got Molten Collapse, we've got a bunch of Pyroblast, which is a real big draw to playing red right now. We have some Grafdigger's Cages. Permanent based hate is way better than spells at the moment. Like Grafdigger's Cage can just shut down a lot of decks quite nicely. Same with Nihil Spellbomb and Unlicensed Hurt, you can just have them there ready to go. And then we've got another piece of removal in the Sheoldred's Edict. And that, lovely people, is Frijat's deck. This won a Legacy Challenge. It's also one of the best performing decks in Legacy right now. I think this build, or builds that look very similar to this, have got 12 top 8 since Tarka Dragonstorm has come out. And if you are looking to build a deck like this, you are in luck, because 3-for-1 Trading is having a spring sale, so you get 5% discount and free worldwide shipping on all orders over $500 or euros. Check out the link in the description. They've got an amazing amount of stock, including some foil Cold Snap Dark Depths. So anything you want, they're going to have it, and you should definitely check them out. They're supporting the Legacy community by sponsoring some of us. And they do have a wonderful inventory, so please check them out while the sale is still on. We've got a few days of that going on. Alright, let's jam some Grixis Tempo. Our opener looks totally serviceable. We've got some interaction, as long as they've got some creatures. And we can also mess with their draws with the Bowmasters that are taking extra cards off of cantrips or the One Ring. And we don't have any counter magic, so we could just be Stone Cold Dead something popping off on turn 1. But I don't think you need to mulligan your hands to try and beat turn 0 stuff. I think that's a healthy way of playing Magic the Gathering. Obviously, sideboard-wise, once you know what's happening, sure. But you just got to keep playable hands in the blind. Okay, Forest into a Hierarch. Okay, I have a decent amount of interaction, so I'm just going to get rid of this one straight away. So we do need to get a non-basic here, because you don't have a basic swamp in the deck. As one of the downsides of running Grixis, is you only get 1 basic. We've got some Jund-looking colours over there. Well, let's see what they're up to with this Thoughtseize. And then we can jam a Nethergoyf that will hopefully be a pretty decent size here. Alright, we'll take the Fatal Push. And if we want to play around a Wasteland, we should probably get another Underground Sea here. It does shut us off with Molten Collapse, but we have loads of spells we would want to be able to cast here. Well, if we get shut off blue, it's only the Kaito, but then we have a bunch of cantrips in our deck. Alright, I think I'm just going to get the Underground Sea. We don't need to show them the red yet either. Let's play a 1-mana 3-4. Right, they're going to go and get a Surveil land here. Yep, a Raucous Theatre. And Orcish Bowmasters gone over there. And now we are in a pretty solid position. Our opponent's just got lands, and we've got... Okay, they're showing us the land that they drew, but this is because they have another Surveil land. So it's better for them to try and dig into some action. Right, we will attack with our Nethergoyf. And then we just turn it into a Kaito. And start drawing free cards. This card is pretty busted. Let's Surveil 2 and draw a card. I'll put this on top of my library so that we have access to our source. So I could have gone and got a Volcanic Island with the Polluted Delta. That might have been slightly better. But I don't want our opponent to know we have red until we are using it. Maybe it's not worth denying the information by putting that in there. But then we only have 1 more red source in our deck. And if something weird happens and we get milled or something. Alright. Wasteland us, we have perfect information for their hand. I guess we're just going to keep bashing and drawing extra cards. Right, I'll put this Force into the graveyard and the Borrower on top. I'll draw the Borrower. I don't think I want to play out this red source until I need it, so I'm just going to deploy the Nethergoyf. Now they've shown us they've got Wastelands. There's no reason for us to take ourselves off of our cleanest piece of removal for something big. We have a removal spell for this. That's not a problem. We can also just tap it down with the Kaito if we ever get worried about it. We don't have... wait, so this surveils 2. So that will trigger Descend, but we'd have to get this out of the way first. So it doesn't actually help us here unless we want to do this for no value straight up. Alternatively, we just go Badlands and then we collapse this. Destroy target creature. Which is half our opponent's life total. We get to draw another card and we just sat on forcible blue card as well. Another Kaito is not really necessary. That can go into the graveyard. I'll have a Ponder though. And I will cast that now while our opponent has no Orcish Bowmaster mana available. A Daze, a Force of Will, a Wasteland. They have plenty of mana, so we're definitely not taking the Wasteland. I think we can just shuffle, because we don't really want to draw all of these. We only have one more turn of this game left, really. So we could just grab the Daze. That doesn't seem good. I'm going to shuffle this one. Alright, so we found a land, so that can trigger Revolt on a Fatal Push next turn, which is nice. Like, we could have just kept that, but is a Daze really going to be relevant? I don't think it is, because our opponent's got lots of mana. Alright, Tiger. Alright, let's scoop it up. We have just a couple of lands left in their hand. Alright, so our opponent's playing some guys. We may want some Hydroblast, I don't know. We probably want the Molten Collapse, they're just going to be playing some beefy boys out. This does not look like a matchup where we're going to want Force of Wills. We're just going to want some good one-for-one interaction. So Hydroblast can answer some red stuff if we're interested in that. But we definitely want the Molten Collapse and the Sheoldred's Edict. What would be the reason for playing a Jund deck? They're just playing a bunch of like guys as always seen, really, right? We've just seen... We didn't even see the Bowmasters, but... No, they milled over a Bowmasters, right? So we've seen Bowmasters, Goyf, Fatal Push... Do I just want a couple of Hydroblasts? They've got to be running red cards for some reason. Right? We'll try it like this, and then we can always adjust the situation as and when we need to. I'm not in love with these Dazes either. Maybe we'll keep a Miser's Force in just in case something weird happens. We have our basic. We have the ability to Brainstorm. The basic makes Molten Collapse a lot more difficult to do anything about. I think I will keep this and believe in the power of Brainstorm. We're on the draw, so we're going to get to see a couple more cards before we need to Brainstorm. Although we do have to be aware that Orcish Bowmasters is in our opponent's deck, so as and when we use the Brainstorm is going to be kind of important. Now, if they Thoughtseize us here and take the Brainstorm, that could leave us a little bit in trouble. It's just some guy. Good. Underground Sea. Alright. I think we play out the basic first. Because we know they have Wastelands. I'd like to get to 2 mana to play Orcish Bowmasters to ping one of these off. If we play this one out, we can expose our black source to being Wastelanded before we get to cast any of our black spells. A Thoughtseize. Alright, I'm going to cast a Brainstorm here. Pretty nice selection of cards here. Where am I going to put these? I think we put an Underground Sea on top. And then the Bowmasters. So they might try and take our Bowmasters, and then we can just get them with the other one. Now, we could hide something that isn't the land here. But then it'd be likely something we shuffle away. I want them to take the Force, because we only have this in because it's just like an extra slot. So I kind of want them baited into taking the Force. We could hide the Kaito. Kaito is pretty high value. And I want to hide the removal spell, actually. Maybe I'll hide the removal spell on top. Even though we can't cast it for a couple of turns. Alright, I think I like that. But we found our additional land drop that we were looking for. Gives us access to red. So if they want to take us off of Force right now, they have to take the Force because we have 2 blue cards. Can't get through the double Bowmasters. So there's also a little bit of gamesmanship going on here of our opponent working out what we would have kept on top. Like, if we have this stuff in our hand, what would we be hiding? It's always interesting. A Dauthi Voidwalker. Okay. It's a guy. I'll just play this one out and I'll pass. Actually, is that true? Should we just be pinging this down right now? Now I have access to using their hierarch. We should have pinged in our turn. Alright, we're going to fire in the Bowmasters now. We should have done this in our turn though. Now they might not have anything they can use mana-wise with this hierarch in their upkeep. Looks like that's the case. So it didn't really cost us anything there. But it could have done. They could have like flashed in an endurance or something. Another Dauthi Voidwalker, sure. 2 cards left in our opponent's hand. We can probably just clean this up with a Molten Collapse. Descend is if a permanent card is put into your graveyard from anywhere. So we don't get the Descend, but we only need to kill one thing anyway. So we could Brainstorm here first. Yeah, I'm not really into having this Borrower in our hand right now. Let's Brainstorm first. A Tamiyo. I don't think we want this Undercity Sewers. Don't mind the Ponder. I don't mind the Bowmasters, but it's not that exciting. Tamiyo is a decent chunk of card advantage. This is our only way of dealing... I guess if we're going to use the Molten Collapse, this is our only other way of dealing with a creature outside of the Kaito. I think it's... like basically what we're going to want to draw is removal. So Ponder is kind of like a removal spell. So it's probably one of these two that goes. I think... what is our play looking like next turn? It's probably just going to be play Kaito, lock down a Dauthi. Which means we have 1 spare mana next turn, which could be putting a Tamiyo into play. So I think I'm going to get rid of the Bowmasters. And then we'll go and get ourselves a land for our Molten Collapse. I think given the amount of blue pips we've got going on right now, although because we have blue here, if we want double black so that we can still have black after being Wastelanded, we should get the Badlands here. This does put a Molten Collapse in the Void for the Dauthi Voidwalker. So if they want to sacrifice their Voidwalker to kill our Kaito, that's a thing they can do. But once Kaito's in play and this is tapped down, that's not a thing they get to do. So, there's some interesting choices here. Anything else from our opponent? Okay, so we didn't draw the land, so we don't get to do double spell here. We still get to Kaito, and that seems fine. So we could Surveil, but our opponent will get some stuff out of it. Or we could just lock this down. I think I'm just going to lock this down for now. The punish here is if our opponent has exactly Orcish Bowmasters right now. But they didn't have that last turn when they had this mana up, so I wasn't expecting it this turn. A red Elemental Blast, sure. Kaito is one of the reasons to be splashing in a deck like ours. Okay. So Pyroblasts are really, really clutch for dealing with a whole bunch of problems these days. I will play a Nethergoyf here. And we just hold up this Bowmasters. We can out-pressure our opponent here. And then maybe try and ponder our way into a removal spell next turn. Going to 8. This is probably going to be for a Barrowgoyf. Just another Dauthi. Our opponent knows what they like. I give them that. Get some pressure down. Ping our opponent. That also grows our Orc army token. It's not really the one, is it? So I think we are going to cast Ponder here. I don't really want these. I could take our opponent off of a colour. They've got 6 coming in. How good do I think that is? So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 damage coming in. So we have a 2-turn clock. Theirs is also a 2-turn clock, but we get to swing first. Well, theirs is actually a 3-turn clock. Sure. What am I most worried about my opponent having? Green spells or red spells? Probably red spells. Take off of red mana. Even though we have this Hydroblast, maybe that means we should have gone for the other one. So we can crack this now, which will flip our Tamiyo. And we can plus the Tamiyo. That ruins our opponent's clock even more. They can attack and kill our Tamiyo, but they are dead on the backswing. They are just drawing blank. If Dauthi Voidwalker was the best thing they did on 3 mana last turn, I suspect it's probably going to be the best thing they do on 3 mana this turn as well, which we handily beat. Now, they do have the Molten Collapse in our exile zone, as well as like a Kaito. but they don't have the 4th mana to play the Kaito. If they want to sack their Dazzling Voidwalker to Molten Collapse here, then we can Hydroblast it, but I suspect they just send both guys in at Tamiyo, then die on the Crackback. So maybe they have to Molten Collapse to kill one of our guys, which then again opens up our Hydroblast. Now they could just be going for something like a Ponder because they reckon they've got better hits of their own in their deck. We'll see what they select. They're going for the Kaito here. Sure, that's fine. Going to stun our poor little guy. So we can bounce this and it goes back to our hand, which is obviously very good. A choke. A choke, you say? Choke's pretty good. Choke is pretty good. Are they going to attack Tamiyo or are they going to attack us? Probably the Tamiyo. But yeah, we just get to bounce as Kaito. Now, it's not like it doesn't come at a cost for us here. Right, so we get our Kaito back. We bash our opponent down for 2 and puts our opponent to 1. And then we can just plus the Tamiyo. We're sitting on a Hydroblast just in case. But I think we're fine here. A Barrowgoyf, you say. Okay. Maybe it's starting to slip away a little bit. I'm not sure. I didn't think the Kaito would be that big a problem. Because, you know, we had a bounce spell in hand and stuff. And they couldn't really use the draw mode very effectively with our Bowmaster in play. This choke, though, is a little bit annoying for us. Now, our Badlands does untap. So we'll have enough mana to play something like a Brazen Borrower. Or we can put a Kaito in. So we swing all our guys. They get to block one thing. We put in a Kaito. We tap down the Barrowgoyf. Then the Dazzling Voidwalker kills our Kaito. A little bit awkward. We're going to have to wait and see what we draw. But we've got more Molten Collapses. Oh, they're just binning off the Dazzling Voidwalker here. They're going to Molten Collapse our Tamiyo. This seems like a pretty good counter-target spell if it's red. So now we can get back our Molten Collapse that our opponent just handily gave us. And kill their guy. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Boom. So this is red and black. Get rid of this, and then we would get the match. Nearly came undone where they had the choke there. But we did manage to ball our way through. I think this is generally going to be pretty good for us because we have similar permanents going on, but we just have selection, whereas our opponent doesn't. Alright, let's go to round 2. Yeah, this seems fine. We can Mishra's Bauble ourselves to see if we want to lead on a fetch or a regular land. Alternatively, we can Bauble our opponent's deck and see if we get some information about what we're trying to ponder looking for. So I think I'm going to take a little peek at our opponents because we might get a little bit of useful information here. Now, this could just find like a fetch land or whatever, or a Daze, yeah, so not the most helpful. I think we play out the Underground Sea here so that you can save this for descending later on. Wouldn't mind seeing another land here. Okay, there's some lands here. Alright, I'll make a Wasteland sandwich, I think. Wasteland is a good way to trigger descend as well. A Dragon's Rage Channeler. So we know our opponent has a Daze. We can't just snap off this Orcish Bowmasters to kill this. Urza's Bauble. Okay, so probably looking at a blue-red Corey Steelcutter Delver deck, which is sweet. I like this deck quite a lot. Right, they're going to see a random card. They've seen a Molten Collapse. There's no point trying to fire this off now. We do have a Surveil land we can reach for. I think is what we have to do. This Wasteland is going to be a thing that helps us pay around Daze more than like an actual Wasteland, if you know what I mean. We're not trying to strip our opponent's lands back because they've got so many cantrips. It's going to be very easy for them to find more lands. Although if they miss, then you can bet I'm going to Wasteland them up. Because if they had a land, they probably would have played it pre-combat so they could then start doing some surveils and stuff. Okay, this is very strange. Why wouldn't you do that before you attack? Because you could turn this into a 3/3 and get an additional 2 points of damage. Left the card on top. So this Daze that they can play at instant speed means that our Orcish Bowmasters will not kill this Dragon's Rage Channeler, because they can just put this in their graveyard and pump their guy, even if they're not countering the spell. Right, we milled over a Daze. I guess it's our turn to get some surveil action. A Barrowgoyf. That is genuinely pretty strong in this matchup, so we will take it. We're in a bit of an interesting choice here, because our opponent has things like Murktides in their deck. So if we Molten Collapse this, we might be left stranded without the ability to answer a Murktide. Now, is double Barrowgoyf enough to get through the Murktide? Possibly. Or we could just stick an Orcish Bowmaster and ruin our opponent's cantrips right now, which I'm in favour of doing. In which case we probably shouldn't have cracked this fetch, should we? Alright. I think we're just going to go for this Bowmaster. Our opponent does not have Bowmasters in their deck if they're on this Corey Steelcut build with the Baubles, which is a big giveaway. I guess we do probably want to crack our fetch before we play this spell anyway, because we don't want our opponent to have double Daze and then beat us when we crack the fetch. I'm going for a Force on this. That is a Force pitch in this Daze that we knew about, and that just means that the coast is more likely to be clear for our Barrowgoyf, which is going to be able to check the damage that the Channeler delivers. This is not really a matchup where you want Force of Wills very much. Like, it's nice to have one or two that you can reach for like something spooky maybe, like when you're in the leading position, but generally speaking, trading 2 for 1 in a matchup where we've got similar tools isn't ideal. So I'm going to take out our red source here. Counterbalance. Yeah, that's interesting. Yep, goodbye red source. We have another one if we want it. I don't think our opponent's deck is going to have many 3s in it. Let's just play out this Wasteland and try this Barrowgoyf now that the Daze we knew about is gone. Main deck Counterbalance does give you an indication of how many different tempo decks there are at the moment. They declined to use Counterbalance's ability. And now we're just in with a 5/6 lifelink guy that they're not going to have any really good removal for. They're going to have to Borrower this. But if we can just keep slapping down Barrowgoyf, that should just win the game. They might have Unholy Heat. That is like the one way that they can deal with a 5/6 Barrowgoyf. Let's just crack in with the Barrowgoyf, get some more information about what creature we're going to be drawing, if we are going to be drawing any. I'll take a Nethergoyf here, which should worry our opponent a little bit. Let's go for this Barrowgoyf. Actually, we need to crack this first, don't we? Just in case. We got the red source in hand still. So let's just go this. I guess our opponent only has the one option of dazing once because they only have one card in hand. But we're playing both of our spells anyway. A Brainstorm. They very much want to find a 3-drop. They will have them in the form of Brazen Borrower. Okay, they're bidding off a Tamiyo. I think the second Barrowgoyf just has to be lights out at this point. They would need to get like runner, Unholy Heat. Even Murktide's going to be a tall ask in the face of double Barrowgoyf because it will just trade with one of them. And comes Barrowgoyf. This Nethergoyf is probably getting counterspelled. Be my guess, since they knew that it was coming. We had 1 mana left over. But I will take a big 5/6 creature. Oh, they declined. They really not have any 1-drops. Alright, we've got 15 power in play. Our opponent has no blockers at present because these guys have to attack. I'm feeling like we're going to win this one. Corey Steelcutter with 1 card in hand. Sure. So even if they cast a spell and just have a thing on there, we can just Molten Collapse it away. Unholy Heats. They did have an Unholy Heat. There's one of our Barrowgoyfs down, but we still got another one. And just a single one means we're taking 1 point of damage a turn cycle off of these flyers. No cards left in our opponent's hand. Yep, we'll take a little bit of damage. Oh, they're scooping it up. They've had enough of the Goyfs. I don't blame them. I've had enough of Goyfs, to be honest with you. Okay, Hydroblast and Pyroblast look pretty good against our opponent's deck. This is not a matchup where we want the Force of Will, so they can come out. Molten Collapse and Sheoldred's Edict also pretty good here. We could use something like Nihil Spellbomb since they're doing some Delirium type shenanigans, and this at least cantrips, so I'm interested in this. Am I interested in Dazes? I don't think I am. It's so easy to play around for our opponent. Nethergoyf's good. I don't mind the Thoughtseizes either. Do I want Meltdown for Corey Steelcutter? We have the Hydroblast to nail it, so I think that's just good enough. And our creatures are just bigger, which is one of the best ways of tackling what our opponents put down. Card advantage is good. It's pretty hard to cut two things from this. If they have a multi-region, we're definitely going to want to have access to Borrower. Maybe we don't get the Spellbomb them, and then we just have to trim somewhere. Maybe trim a Thoughtseize. We could also take out these two Thoughtseize and get in a Spellbomb and maybe a Meltdown, just so we have an answer to Corey Steelcutters. I think this is fine though. Now we've got some really nice black removal that can just deal with a bunch of things. And we got all the Pyroblast in the world. Not in this opener though. I will keep this. We have access to turn 1 Ponder or Tamiyo. If our opponent ponders, then we probably play the Tamiyo. Okay, so this is representing a Lightning Bolt, so I don't just want to play my Tamiyo straight into Lightning Bolt. How do I feel about my Nethergoyf straight into Lightning Bolt? Not great. I think this is going to be a case of fetching a basic island so we don't get wasted. And then we'll play... I guess we could have trimmed Wastelands, actually. I like the second land. I'm not in love with some of the other bits and pieces. But we can blitz through the pile pretty quickly. The artifact will pump our guy. Alright, I've convinced myself enough here. So we can play 2 1-drops next turn. We can also like kill their thing if they play a 1-drop of their own. Although this feels like a turn 2 Corey Steelcutter turn for our opponent. We have the Hydroblast that can answer the Steelcutter next turn, and then we can just play a Tamiyo, and if they want to Daze that, it doesn't matter because we've got another one. We just traded 1 for 1 on resources. So this is going to be some sort of Bauble. What variety? The Mishra's variety. So we're going to take 2. Get out of here, Corey Steelcutter. So they are left with like a 1-1 prowess, so it's not like amazing for us, but it's fine. Let's try this one out, and let's see what our opponent's cooking with over there. Another Corey Steelcutter, okay. Is this Tamiyo or is this Nethergoyf? We know we're about to draw another Tamiyo. I think I'm going to go for the Tamiyo here. It can block the Prowess Monk relatively well. And if it gets counterspelled, I don't mind as much. And then we can just start slapping down the beefcakes. Our creatures are noticeably bigger than our opponents and have useful abilities like lifelink on them. So we're probably going to see Corey Steelcutter into Cantrip would be my guess, but it could just be like a DRC. That pumps the monk. And then the second thing will mean that this is a 3-3, so we're not going to be blocking this. Alright, just going to lightning bolt our thing. Sure, that's fine. I do not mind that. We are getting hit for a decent chunk this turn, though. Our opponent's down to 3 cards in hand, and we can make a big guy next turn. I would love to just draw a black source. That would be ideal here. Not a black source. Okay. So I think the play is make 2 guys here. Both of them around potential Dazes. So the thing with this Corey Steelcutter deck is that it does run out of steam a little bit because you have to be double spelling to get the value out of it. If we can just stick a massive body in their way, it'll be alright. So if they have an Unholy Heat, they're probably going to point it at the Nethergoyf, which means our Barrowgoyf gets to stick. But if we can draw a black source so we can Barrowgoyf and Fatal Push, then I'll feel pretty comfortable. If our opponent can't double spell this turn, then they can't attack. I guess if they have a single spell that kills our Nethergoyf, they can attack. Like an Unholy Heat. A Lightning Bolt at our Tamiyo. Sure, that is a Lightning Bolt that's not going at my face. I will take that. Just a Borrower. Borrower would be pretty tasty here. Oh no, this is going to be a Murktide, isn't it? I think they're going to get the bits in here. Okay, so a black source, please. A black source. Okay, good. So now we deploy Big Daddy Barrowgoyf. And then we have a Fatal Push for one of the monks. We probably want to Fatal Push on our turn. I don't know if that's 100% true, though. Because if we do it on our turn... So, if we do it on our opponent's turn, they could Daze, which could give them a second spell. But we can try and hit the bigger creature. I think we're just going to do it now just to dodge them having something... Well, if they had a Daze, and then I guess they use it on this anyway, but it means they didn't have the extra spell. I think this works out best a lot of the time. The next turn we can start cracking in. We are dead to Lightning Bolt here, but our opponent's used 2 of them already. They can equip on the Murktide Regent. That won't give them lethal, but it'll get close. A Brainstorm, sure. That's a nice way to find the action they require. I think our opponent can get over the line there. This is like the crunch turn. If we get to send in a Barrowgoyf, then I think we're going to be okay. We can maybe use the Wasteland to make it harder for our opponent to multi-spell. So if we hit that Black Source a turn earlier, we could be on a slightly higher life total right now. Ponder. There goes the Corey Steelcutter. At present, we're just going to be taking 5 this turn, but we're also going to be gaining 5, so our life total should remain the same. I guess I just attack with only the Murktide is the plan. Unholy Heat on the Barrowgoyf. Okay, that kills us, right? Yeah, it does. Okay. That got a little bit out of hand there, didn't it? I still think we're fine with what we've got going on here. I'm just going to go back in again. Being on the play is going to make a bit of a difference as well. It's very easy for us to get taken off of our colours. We do get to maybe double cheese our opponent with Wasteland. Alright, I'm going to keep this one. We have a couple of cantrips. We've got a handy removal spell for like a big Murktide. We've got a lot of selection here. I will take this. So we can't be wasted off of blue now. If our opponent just does like a ponder type turn. Okay, so playing this out suggests that they don't have a Corey Steelcutter for turn 2. Because you would save that in your hand otherwise. So you can get the damage in straight up. Alright, it's just a Thundering Falls. I don't believe our opponent's going to Daze our ponder here. Not in love with this selection of cards. I think we can do better. Or the same. I think I'm okay just to get the Wasteland cheese going here. Makes it much more difficult for our opponent to double spell. And can hopefully draw us into anything. Like if they don't have any action going on either. That's pretty good for us. They're not doing anything with their 1 mana. That's good. So there's going to be an emergency Brainstorm. Be my guest. It is awkward that this is not a red source for us right now. But that's okay. We can get a nice little Wasteland cheese game. Because if they don't have another land, they are Brainstorm locked. They did have an island. Good for them. A Tamiyo. Okay. And a Bauble. I think I'm going to do a Brainstorm at our end step here. Sorry, our opponent's end step here. Just so we have more mana available for next turn. So it's going to be Pyroblast around a Daze here. Multiple Pyroblasts. Okay. Don't think we need the Wasteland next turn. Because we're going to be playing a red source. Can I kill your Tamiyo? Or is this going to be a Force of War situation? It is not. Okay. So what we can sometimes do is get Molten Collapse to kill a flip Tamiyo and a creature at the same time. If we ever get to do that, then we are laughing. Right, a Brainstorm. Dig a little deeper there, opponent. We can just play the Brazen Borrower in attack mode next turn. Found a red source. We found a guy. We could just eliminate said guy if we wish. I'm okay with doing this. Let's destroy target creature or planeswalker. We've got a second one, so I don't feel so bad about firing this off. And I will Wasteland our opponent again. So if they have to use their cantrip to find mana, that's going to be an irritating one for them. It just makes it take a bit longer for our opponent to ever get some sort of Corey Steelcutter turn going. They didn't shuffle off the ponder. They found a land. A Hydroblast. Yeah, that is very much one of the cards I really wanted to draw, so... No more fear of the Quarry Steelcutter. We can counter on the stack. And then we also have the Borrower as a threat if nothing else happens here. A counter balance. I think we will counter target spell if it's blue. A Nethergoyf. This is the sort of thing that we're looking for. Just a nice cheap way of applying pressure. I would like to counter target spell if it's red. Get out of here, Quarry Steelcutter. So we can save this Bowmasters, so if they do make another Quarry Steelcutter, we can ping down the token with the trigger on to equip it. I believe. Right, here comes another Quarry Steelcutter, sure. Is it an intervening if clause? Create a 1/1. You may attach it. Maybe we don't get to it. I don't know, we'll see. No, yeah, we don't get a chance to ping it down when it's a 1/1 actually. It's not like something like Minsk and Boo where it creates a separate trigger. Like when you throw things. Okay, they have a guy. So yeah, so they immediately stick it on there. Now we can obviously just shoot this and chuck our guy, our little friend under the bus here. I'll pop this thing so it's got trample and haste. It doesn't have first strike, so we just trade off with a monk. I'll go to attacks with my Nethergoyf. I don't really want to burn a Molten Collapse on a Dragon's Race Channeler, especially when we're ahead of the race. So our opponent's going to be worried about things like Pyroblast if we leave up the red mana. Although it does mean that Wasteland might force our hand on an early Brazen Borrower. But we've been selling the we have a Pyroblast plan for a little while. Lightning Bolt targeting the Orcish Bowmaster. This does not allow us to bounce our own permanents. So it's probably going to be some kind of cantrip reaction. We are representing a potential another Bowmasters here. But I think our opponent's going to play into it regardless. Okay, we got a Brainstorm popping off here. We've got 8 damage on the crackback. So it's going to be an awkward one for our opponent. We can bounce this token out of the way in a minute. Molten Collapse only hitting mana value 1 or less non-land permanents is a bit awkward in terms of Quarry Steelcutter. Now, there's plenty of cool things it does hit, like Carpet of Flowers, Manifold Keys, Lion's Eye Diamonds, all sorts of stuff. That is a Wasteland. An Unholy Heat on my poor defenseless guy. He's just a little guy. He's just a massive guy. Right, goodbye. I'm going to Wasteland, we're going to bounce that monk. So they have like a turn 9 days that's going to get us here. So we take 3, they take 4. Now they can equip this, so they also are dealing 4, but we are also ahead on the race and we have a removal spell in hand. I don't really want to fire this removal spell off. Well, we can't anyway, but do I want to Thoughtseize my opponent here? That is a little bit of a sketchy proposition. Nethergoyf is 3 animate. Opponent has 1 card in hand. If we Thoughtseize them, they're not going to double spell. So we hit our opponent to 4 here, so they go to 7, then we go to 12. Alright, I think I'm going to Thoughtseize them. I'm not in love with this play. But it should stop our opponent from double spelling next turn. Oh, it was a ponder, okay. That was actually a pretty good hit. We do need to fade some draws from our opponent. I imagine this is just a equip Steelcutter. And they're not equipping the Steelcutter. Is that going to be a Murktide Regent then? That would be a very good draw. Now they're equipping it second main phase. Okay, they just forgot. But it's still right to use your mana to do that. Even if you made a mistake, you shouldn't double down on a mistake by making another one. Alright, let's cast a Ponder. I don't mind the Tamiyo and the Polluted Delta actually. Do we have a Volcanic Island left in our deck is the question. We do. Okay, so we go bury the island, put the Delta and the Tamiyo. The reason we're doing it this way instead of just Molten Collapsing this creature is if our opponent has a Murktide, it can just stop all of our attacks. And at present, we're winning these exchanges. So I'd rather just guarantee that we have a Molten Collapse for the next turn when it's like the final turn where we have to win the game pretty much. Or whatever. So like if they remove our Nethergoyf and then we're underneath some Dragon's Rage Channeler aggro, then maybe we have to... Okay, that's fine. That's a blocker that we can kill. What is the one card in our opponent's hand? A Lightning Bolt for our Tamiyo. I'd love to see that. A Pyroblast for our Tamiyo. Okay, so they get a monk here. What do they do with a monk? They can attack with the monk. This has to attack each combat. So that one of the channelers is coming in. The other one's staying back because it has to. Do they go for 5 damage here? I think they might do. Yeah, okay. So the reason you would go for 5 damage here is you already have a blocker back anyway. And if you attack with just the one guy, then they're just going to fall further behind, I think. Yeah, okay. So our opponent has no cards in hand. We take 5 here. We untap. We Molten Collapse, kill their blocker, win the game. Pretty tight in the end, this game. You can see why there are two very, very different looking sort of tempo decks in the meta right now. So I really like the Corey Steelcut deck. It feels a lot more like playing the sort of tempo decks I used to play back in the day. It's got some Nibble Mongoose energy to it in a weird sort of fashion, where you chain a bunch of spells together and your guys get big. It's kind of the same sort of deal. Alright, we came away with a victory. I think this is a favourable matchup for the blue-black deck. Sorry, for the Grixis deck. But I think it's pretty close, and I really like the Corey Steelcut deck. As you saw, when they get going, they can just put out so much stuff to deal with, it can be a problem. Alright, on to round number 3. This is one of those hands where Wasteland can just end our day. I'm going to keep it, though. We're on the draw. So we got another draw step to get there. Oh, was our opponent the Oopsal Spells guy? I think our opponent might be the Oopsal Spells guy. Bog. Certainly looking a bit Oopsal Spelly. A Dark Ritual. Okay. Student Spirit Guide. Balustrade Spy. Is the last card in your hand. What do we ping off here? It's Kaito. Alright. Step 1 achieved. Now we just make our Tamiyo. So our opponent's last card in hand was a Pact of Negation. We just lose that. A Cabal Therapy. What would you like to name? I'm going to name Daze here. That'd be Savage, obviously. They named Daze. Okay, so we're going to lose both of our Dazes. Cool. Let's go and get a clue. Is it more important to be drawing cards or putting pressure on our opponent? That is a key question here. I think I want to draw cards this time. Like if we can find some Thoughtseizes or counter magic, that's going to make us a lot happier. Wasteland, that'll do. Alright, strip away some resources here. We're just going to jam in a Bowmasters now. Our opponent doesn't really interact in normal fashions, so we just need to play our spells and move on. So now we're actually pressuring our opponent's life total. I'm going to crack a clue and then deploy a Goyf. Okay, so we just need to find one more blue card and then we've got a nice little bit of protection. Now our opponent could play some guy and flashback Cabal Therapy. Right, so we will attack in with the squad. I'll draw a card. There is our blue card. Would I like to flip my Tamiyo? Or would I like to play another Bowmasters here? I'm going to flip the Tamiyo, I think. I'm just going to rebuy our Force of Will next turn. Let's start with a Thoughtseize. This will grow our Nethergoyf because we don't have a sorcery in our graveyard yet. I think we actually buy back... Well, we could buy back a Thoughtseize and fire again, or we could buy back a Daze. So we'll see what our opponent reveals. Alright, they're scooping rather than showing us what they've got, which might mean they have Charbelchers in the main. So, we need Grafdigger's Cages. We need Nihil Spellbomb. Unlicensed Hearth is not great, but I guess we'll play it anyway. Hydroblast, are these doing anything? Not really. Are the Pyroblast doing anything? No, not really. Like, we can counter a Pact of Negation. That's not really the way forward. Okay, so what is bad here? We don't really want the removal spells, but then our opponent can board in Barrowgoyf, so it's like, whatever. It's very frustrating playing against this deck, to be honest. Tamiyo is probably not the one here, is it? I guess that's a Molten Collapse. So we have Molten Collapse which can blow up some of their things, and then we have the Borrower and the Kaito and some counter spells to maybe deal with some creatures if they have them. Molten Collapse is just much more flexible than a Fatal Push here. Now, Molten Collapse is sorcery speed, but generally they're not going to... If they play out a guy, they're either going to activate immediately, or they're going to pass a turn and then untap to activate it. So it's kind of going to be the same deal either way. So I think this is just better because we can hit some mana and all sorts. Alright. Oops All Spells currently has 17 top 8s since Tarkir Dragonstorm, and the second best deck has got 12, I think. Sorry, I tell a lie, it's 13 is the second best. So there's a pretty clear margin of most top 8s. Alright, I will keep this hand. Got some cantrips, we got double Force of Will, so we should be able to push through a turn 1 attempt. We hope. Summoner's Pact. Alright, our win condition is the Summoner's Pact. Cool. I don't particularly think the Summoner's Pact build is very good. Right, so I have 3 cards plus 2 Spirit Guides. Okay, I have 3 Spirit Guides in hand. An Undercity Informer. Say no to this. To reanimate their Undercity Informer. Say no to this. Alright, an easy win there. So, the Summoner's Pact build of Oops All Spells, it gets into these situations where just having the protection can actually win you the game, whereas the builds that don't have this, they can just keep re-racking it again and again, and then maybe just pivot to a beatdown plan after you've mulliganed to like, and polluted your deck with all this like graveyard hate stuff. But yeah, we got there. Let's go to round 4. Okay, we've got Tamiyo into a flip Tamiyo. That seems pretty nice. Now we might take a turn off and fatal push, but we'll see what our opponent's up to. Do we want to fatal push into a Daze or not? Alright, is our opponent playing a Ponder? Okay, that's perfect for us. We can just play a Tamiyo. If our opponent wants to answer it, they have to answer on their main phase, because they're not holding up like a potential lightning bolt or anything. They could Daze it, obviously, but that's fine. Let's start off on the front foot with a Tamiyo. And then we can curve into Bowmasters and Barrowgoyf if we're doing like an aggressive plan, or we can like Brainstorm, flip this, get some stuff going that way. So if our opponent makes a threat that we have to answer, then we can just go with that. I suspect we're getting fail pushed here though. Yep, goodbye. But that's a fail push that's not being pointed at our Bowmasters or Barrowgoyf, which are more likely to win us games. Our opponent is showing us that they are likely to be a Orcish Bowmasters deck, which means we probably want to get this Brainstorm down before we do anything else. So I'm into that. Let's get Brainstorm going. Okay, the Wasteland can definitely go back. And it's probably not a Force of Will matchup for now. We certainly don't have the blue card for it, so I will deploy this. This can become a Surveil land, or it can become a basic, depending on what our opponent is up to. We can also just go and get a non-basic and fatal push in this turn cycle. It will expose us to Daze, but we have to make some decisions if we want to do that. Alright, that is a Tamiyo. Let's crack this and see if our opponent cracks their Bloodstone Mire in response. They did not. Okay. I will get an Undercity Sewers here. A Wasteland, that can go into the graveyard. Right, so we're going to play this out. Our plan is, our opponent cracks his fetch land at end step, then we fatal push the Tamiyo. I did not crack the fetch land. Okay, interesting. Alright, so we had 2 options here. I went for the option to give them a clue token because we have a Molten Collapse which can blow up a clue token potentially later. Alright, so in our opponent's end step we're going to try and fatal push this guy now. We're going to Brainstorm response and then we can Bowmasters over the top. Wow, interesting. Okay, so we don't need to Bowmasters here because you don't want to be the first person to play Bowmasters. That's not how the game works. Right, so I'll play out this Mishra's Bauble. This means we can make our Barrowgoyf larger at will. Crack and a clue, sure. So now we don't have to worry about Bowmasters. I can ponder here. Oh, I like the ponder, but I don't like anything else here. So I think this isn't any order in shuffle. Don't mind having a little Nethergoyf action. So our opponent could play a Bowmaster next turn. Right, so now we know they're going to have a Brainstorm. Are they going to fire that off while we're tapped out of Bowmaster? Probably. But there is a chance that they don't, which means we can try and mess with them with a Bowmaster at some stage. But I'd be surprised they didn't just Brainstorm here. They're cracking first. So this just would be a hard cast Kaito, tap our guy down. Okay, no, they just wanted to get the Fatal Push going. I'm surprised they didn't Brainstorm first, though. A Tamiyo. Okay, that explains why I didn't want to Brainstorm first. I get you, opponent. Okay, so here comes a Brainstorm. No, they're thinking about it. This is going to be a bit of a weird turn. So I think we cast the Molten Collapse to destroy this. So this is red and black. Then they Brainstorm, and then we Bowmasters over the top. And the Bowmasters can kill the Tamiyo. They've got a Force of Will for this, sure. So we've got 2 for 1 with our Bowmasters. We can deploy a 5/6, which can kill the Tamiyo next turn. Okay, so plan is, this goes up to 4, we attack it down and it dies. And we have a ponder to find some more action. So it depends really what are the 3 cards in our opponent's hand. Brainstorm is a pretty good card. Right, a Baleful Strix is very irritating for us, because that's a very difficult thing for us to push through. So our opponent is on the straight up blue-black build, by the looks of it, whereas we are the Grixis build. I think the Grixis build is better, because Pyroblast is just such a key card at the moment. But we'll see how it pans out. Okay, I think it's begin with a ponder and try not to get Bowmastered. Okay, a Fatal Push is useful. I don't really like these other cards, but they can turn... I guess we can't even turn them into a thing we want, actually, can we? I was going to say we could turn them into Surveil Lands, but we don't have any more. I think we do have to make this horrible play of killing a Baleful Strix. Dislike this play, but we can't allow this Tamiyo to keep popping up. If we can kill this Tamiyo and untap, I think we'll be okay. Okay, I don't like this. This is an Orcish Bowmaster to chump block, maybe? Blue, they're just going to pay theft it. We can redeploy the guy. Brainstorm. So they have a Nethergoyf. It is the same size as ours. They also have a Brazen Borrower waiting in the wings. I think our opponent has this one. They just got their Tamiyo off and running. And we need something like a Kaito here. Obviously, we're not drawing one because we know the top card of our library. We don't have anything to do out of our graveyard. No point attacking here. This sucks. Yeah. So they're not going to attack here. They're just going to sit back on their little Tamiyo. Protect it. Let's crack this fetch land. Let's go get Underground Sea. See if we can draw into something to deal with this Tamiyo. So that would be... I don't know, our Molten Collapse already gone. And we drew the Scalding Tarn that we shuffled. Yeah, I'm not going to make our opponent play through drawing half a deck. We're just going to lose there. I think pre-board, our opponent might actually be favoured here. But post-board, where we get to play the Pyroblast and they don't, is going to be real good for us. So that's the obvious initial swap. Get rid of these. Get in a piece of Planeswalker, Hatred. I like a Nihil Spellbomb here. And that probably means we just get a Miser's Force of Will in. Like, I could play the Unlicensed Hearse just to keep their graveyard in check. It stops some of Tamiyo. It weakens their Murktide and stuff. Alright, I will try a single Hearse here. Not entirely confident about this, but I think like it can also just be a threat, or we can just flash in a guy and then all of a sudden they've got something massive to deal with. Thoughtseize is excellent. I will keep this. We could board lower on Wastelands as well. Thought's these. Let's have a look. What do we got here? Fatal Push, Tamiyo. We're not really ready to deal with a Tamiyo, are we? I think we will nail this Tamiyo for now. That's the thing that can certainly change everything. So our opponent here has the lands to play on basic lands, which is why the Wasteland's not going to do a lot for us. So they're going to go get a basic island and cast this Ponder. This Harbinger of the Seas is kind of interesting. Okay, a Fatal Push is a handy one to have access to. Let's Ponder. These are all very strong cards in the matchup, apart from this Wasteland. But we'll shuffle that one away next turn. Okay. I'm more into having... I think I'm more into having the Bowmasters than I am the Brainstorm. So I'm going to put the Bowmasters into our hand. And then if we need to shuffle away to go and Fatal Push like we can. Otherwise we can just wait till our turn, draw the Brainstorm and then shuffle. Polluted Delta. So we can use this Fatal Push to kill the Harbinger when the time comes. An unlicensed Hearse. Our opponent is on the Hearse plan as well. Okay. I guess that means it's correct. I will draw the Brainstorm. And we know what we're drawing. So probably want to crack this first. They're just eating some of our cards. I'll get an Underground Sea. I'll cast this Brainstorm. More Orcish Bowmasters, nice. Get out of here, Wasteland. And get out of here, Badlands. To keep the most amount of action we have. And then we'll pass. So we can Fatal Push this Harbinger of the Seas. I think this is an Undercity Sewers time. Big Barrowgoyf. Okay. I would like a big Barrowgoyf. We're not playing it right now, but I still like it. So we're probably going to feed an Orcish Bowmaster to Fatal Push at some point soon. Sure, you can eat my graveyard. Enjoy. Delicious graveyard juice. Okay. So this fetch hand probably has to be a red source for when we draw our Pyroblast and Molten Collapses. So we want to leave this uncracked until we're ready to fire it off. Right, Orcish Bowmasters. Time to shine. So we need the Revolt here so that we can actually kill the Harbinger of the Seas. I'm a big fan of that one. Let's attack and see what happens here. I guess they could flash in Brazen Borrower and activate the Hearse, which we can then bounce. Right, just going to Fatal Push our guy. That's fine. Fatal Pushing the other one. Okay, that is quite an aggressive line. I will deploy Big Daddy Barrowgoyf. This still gives us the mana to Fatal Push around a Daze. And if everything goes wrong, then we still have the Brazen Borrower, which can bounce out the Harbinger of the Seas for a turn if we need to. A Brainstorm. I don't think we get to do anything to this. I think we have to just keep open our plan with a Fatal Push in here. This feels a bit like bait almost. So we can still make another land drop here, right? So there's a Wasteland. They're wastelanding our Wasteland. Be my guest. A Fatal Push on our poor little guy. On our beautiful boy. And a Nethergoyf. Okay. They're probably going to activate this Hearse, aren't they? No? I think I would have cracked in for a bunch here. Things are going badly for us now. A Brainstorm. Okay, that is the sort of card that can get us out of a spot like this. A Pyroblast. Okay, that does help a bunch here. So we want to Fatal Push this. We want to hold up Pyroblast and Fatal Push. I think that means we're putting the Borrower on top. We can just push this in our opponent's combat step. This Harbinger has been kind of a weird irritant to us. Because we have to keep the tools to deal with it around. Okay, so now this will attack and we will push it. There is a Harbinger of the Seas. What is the best answer to this? Is the question. Okay, so step one, we fetch. We go and get... I think it's a Badlands here. Then we float red. We float black. We let this resolve. Now I'm going to fatal push this one. Okay. Crisis averted. Now the next crisis we have is Unlicensed Terrace. But we'll get to that, I suppose. They can also bring back their Nethergoyf soon. Brazen Borrower. Okay, that is very much what we want to see here. That can check the hearse when it comes in for a big swing. Just strip away all that power and toughness on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's a 10-10. A Tamiyo. Don't really like that one very much. Can't target spell if it's blue. Alright, so now we're seeing the power of the Pyroblast kicking in. Sure, you can keep gobbling up my graveyard. Right, Fatal Push can also just kill the Unlicensed Hearse as well. I don't know if they still have this Brazen Borrower. I'm not just going to fire off this Bowmaster. We're in it for the long haul here. Another land. This gives us Borrower bounce into Cast Borrower, which is pretty cool. You just keep eating. If you're greedy, Unlicensed Hearse, it never stops eating. Bringing back Nethergoyf. Sure. Are you going to activate the hearse with it? No. I'm really reluctant to attack with this hearse. I think I'm going to pay theft the hearse now. And then just deploy our guy as a beatdown threat. Right, in comes the Borrower. We can deploy this Tamiyo. And we've got ourselves some useful interaction in our hand. So I'm kind of hoping we can pick up like a Brazen Borrower or something with this Bowmasters. Obviously, if our opponent gives us a nice Brainstorm to Bowmasters into, I'll take it. But I'm happy... I was going to say I'm happy to take 3 here, but what if they have Kaito? Yeah, we should have blocked this, because now we're going to get Kaito'd. Yep. As predicted. However, we at least get to play a Bowmasters in response to the activation here. And we have Pyroblast on our deck. So this is a creature with hexproof, so we're not pinging that, we're just pinging their face. But this gives us more power that we can challenge the Kaito with. So if they just redeploy the Goyf here, then we can just push out of the way. So they are representing a potential fatal push on their own part. I think it's okay to ponder first here. Pyroblast is excellent. It is unfortunate we have to draw a land, but I think it is worth it here. Attack all creatures at Kaito. If I don't have to use my Pyroblast, even better. Right, Kaito's gone. We'll draw a card here. That allows us to go and put our Tamiyo on its backside. And we are pulling away, I would say. So we can shuffle this so we don't draw the next land down. A Barrowgoyf. Sure. We have an answer for this ready to go with our Tamiyo. We just buy back our Fatal Push and kill it. They're going to redeploy the hearse though, aren't they? No, they're just going to bounce our Tamiyo. Alright, counter target spell if it's blue. Pyroblast makes such a big difference here. Alright, they're just giving it up because they know we can just get the Fatal Push, kill this, and then we're just miles ahead. Yeah, so the Fatal Pushes were pretty nice, but the Pyroblasts, our red cards, really are the difference here. I think we're just going to resubmit. Right, we've got an opener that we can't keep unless we want to go super cheese mode, which we don't. Let's mulligan. Yes. There is a bunch of good cards in this hand. I would like to keep them. We're going to probably put back the Wasteland. Wasteland isn't great in this matchup. Like, it's fine. It's just additional mana is nice. Then sometimes you can choose people or cut them off of spells on a crucial turn. It's not just trying to deny the resource, it's trying to deny the resource at a very specific time is how the Wasteland usually plays out. A Tamiyo, okay. Not in love with that one. If only we had some sort of blast of the Pyro variety. Okay, so this is going to go and get us an Volcanic Island, and then we're going to just Pyroblast this now. Does our opponent still have Dazes in their deck? Well, we're about to find out. But if you don't answer this immediately, then we start falling behind. Okay, the first exchange was okay for us. Now, Pyroblast is obviously quite a big tool that we're leveraging here. Like, it's one of the things that cleanly answers Kaito and Murktide. Thoughtseize. Okay, what would you like to take? My hand is pretty good, to be honest. What would I take if I were them? It depends entirely on the context of their hand. Like, are they in a position where they think they can beat a Kaito? They are. Okay. Oh, okay, no, they're on the Wasteland us into the dirt plan. A classic. Okay, I just play my Tamiyo. So I can try and Wasteland us to the point where we don't get to activate any clues. Playing the Wasteland and not using it there suggests to me they don't have another land. It's a guy. Yeah, they don't have another land here. So maybe we can Wasteland them. Okay, so let's get our Surveil land. We're trying to look for more mana, ideally. That is mana. I'll put that on top of my library. There's a Scalding Tarn. We can attack with our Tamiyo here. I think the plan here is just going to be draw extra cards for a few turns. Now, our opponent might be able to rustle up a Bowmasters this turn, but we'll see. A Ponder. Sure. Sure, we'll use our life total as a resource here. This game is not really about life total points for the most part. It's about resources on board. Okay, that's a pretty good guy. Okay, I think we get a red source here. Let's draw a card. We're pretty similar on clock times as well here. Kaito is a little bit awkward on this board. And Kaito tap down, and then we're kind of dead anyway. I'll play the land out. We'll get ourselves a clue. I am quite worried about our opponent having a Kaito. I don't really think... So the way we play around that is by using the Orcish Bowmaster as a blocker. And just saving our Molten Collapse. And we can just use this to blow up a Planeswalker. Oh, it's been a hot minute since I've got to do this to somebody. Orcish Bowmasters in response to your Baleful Strix. Boom. Get him. Right, we'll ping you to the face for one. And then we'll kill your Baleful Strix. Oh, this feels good. A freebie. You don't get them very often. I'll take it. So we don't have to worry about a Kaito this turn. So we can actually just take the full 8 here. And then we can set up behind our Kaito. A Fatal Push. That is interesting. We could just kill both of their guys. If I put Kaito in... Alright, I think we attack with both of these and then we kill their guys. Alright, our opponent's just had enough. Okay. We are 4 rounds in and we are 4-0. So we've got a trophy match on the line. Let's see if we can grab that trophy. But at least a nice tasty 4-1 locked in. Sure, we can keep this. We've got Tamiyo and Thoughtseize with a little bit of Force of Will backup. Considering there are some pretty spooky combo decks in the format, I will Thoughtseize on turn 1 rather than play the Tamiyo. We can just Tamiyo and Brainstorm on turn 2 if that's the thing we want to do. Although quite often I just prefer levering clues from it. Okay, what do we have here? We have Brainstorm, Brazen Borrower, Daze, a bunch of stuff here. I think we take the Brainstorm so that we keep the information on our opponent's hand. We don't mind if they pitch Force of Will stuff and we can play around the Daze. Okay. So next turn we play a land, we play a Tamiyo. And then our opponent has a choice of whether or not they're trying to fire off a Force of Will on that or not. But if they do, then we just got 2 cards for 1. They drew a Ponder for turn. That's very good. Play land. I will play out a Tamiyo. Okay, they didn't want to force it. This might mean they have other answers available. I'm not going to crack this. I want the ability to brainstorm in response if it's required. Right, let's just crack in with a Tamiyo. Feels like our opponent has an Orcish Bowmasters here, which is a-okay with me. Because we can just slam our own Orcish Bowmasters in. This could be just a Surveil land though. Here is the Orcish Bowmasters that we expected. I'm just going to get Underground Seas here. Because I want to be able to play around. Since we have Wasteland, we just have a bunch of black and blue spells right now. Let's get our own Bowmasters in. We can fight using the Force here. If they force this. Which I suspect they might try to do. Force pitching Daze. And we fight back. Our opponent kind of blinked first here because we had the turn 1 pressure they kind of forced to. That kind of sucks for them. Okay, a second Force of Will. Pitching the Brazen Borrower. Okay, Tamiyo versus... Okay, they had a Brainstorm as well to follow up. Okay, so it's Tamiyo versus Orcish Bowmasters. Kind of an awkward one for us there. But if we can slap down Big Daddy Barrowgoyf, we could be okay. Okay, so everything has been reduced to parity now. Our opponent's got no cards in hand. We just dump down the biggest, most scariest monster we can. And now we are very far ahead on board. This is the card advantage engine. It gains life. It beats for more than what they're doing. And we get to follow up with another big boy. The exchange where our opponent had to pitch lots of cards with their forces, because that double force was pretty good for us. Okay, they binned off a Bowmasters. Tamiyo is okay here, but not ideal for them right now. Right, we can just crack in here. I would love to mill over some cards and maybe get a free spell here. Pop our graveyard out. An Orcish Bowmasters, you say? Alright, they're scooping. Okay. Yeah. That exchange was basically our opponent had a bunch of Force of Wills and we didn't, and it was good for us. Out of here, Force of Will. In Molten Collapse as well. We didn't see any red mana, I don't think. What did we board last time? We should get rid of Dazes as well. And then that gets us a Sheoldred's Edict. And then one Nihil Spellbomb, or was it the Hearse? Or did we do both? I can't remember now. I like the Spellbomb because it cantrips at least. Maybe I should be boarding in Hearse for this, but this selection stuff feels pretty solid. Oh, the Meltdown. That's not supposed to be in there. That's why. Okay, Unlicensed Hearse comes back in. All right. One more game to win for the trophy. Let's see if we can pull it off. It's fine. So we have Fatal Push that we can jam super early doors. We don't need to worry about Fatal Pushing this just yet. We probably want to fire off our Mishra's Bauble before our opponent gets access to... Oh, I quite like the Tamiyo though. We could play Tamiyo and Bauble. Crack the Bauble in our opponent's turn, then we can flip our Tamiyo on turn 2. That is an interesting line. We need to draw an untapped mana source. A lot of interesting options available to us here. This exposes us to Orcish Bowmaster in a way that I'm not in love with. Right, I think I'm just going to play... I'm going to play the Tamiyo. And then I have to decide what I'm doing with this Mishra's Bauble. I don't really want to flip the Tamiyo just yet. I'd rather just get clues from it for now. So I'm going to use it to get information, get a card before Orcish Bowmasters comes online. This Nethergoyf is very unlikely to be able to kill us. To be able to kill our Tamiyo, so we shouldn't take any damage this turn. We've got a Thoughtseize for next turn, which is pretty good. Alright, Fatal Push, sure. So now they can come in for 1, unless they got a fetch. No fetch. Okay, so they do have the Badlands, so this is going to be a full-on mirror. Alright, let's Thoughtseize our opponent. This will probably grow their Nethergoyf. What do we have here? A Brainstorm is pretty good. Orcish Bowmasters is something that we can easily handle with our hand, and we don't care about the Pyroblast right now, so it's a clear Brainstorm pick. And then I'll play this Undercity Sewers. And that is a Barrowgoyf. We don't want that right now, we want lands. I could use this Mishra's Bauble to try and find lands. The problem with that is our opponent is sat there with the Orcish Bowmasters, so the Bauble's not great into that. I'd much rather have the ability to kill this first. Alright, so going to ping us for 1, that's fine. So I guess we could have played this out and then used the Fatal Push in our upkeep, but what if we draw a land and we just go play a Barrowgoyf and win the game that way? That seems a lot better. Opponent's got 1 mystery card in hand. They're cracking the Scalding Tarn to force for an extra point with the Nethergoyf. We did draw the land. Let's just slap down Big Daddy Barrowgoyf. Alright, so we're going to save this because it also gives us Descend and Revolt. So it gives us everything we need to trigger our other spells. But if our opponent doesn't answer this Barrowgoyf right now, then we start pulling ahead. Alright, they did have an answer for it. That's good for them. And they have another Nethergoyf. Alright. Calm down there, opponent. A red source would be handy. Not a red source. Okay. So, I think we go... We'll have a Barrowgoyf. Sorry, not Barrowgoyf, a Nethergoyf. We'll play an Underground Sea. I will... I guess I Fatal Push this Bowmaster. So that we can get a card deeper without helping our opponent out. This is going to get rid of our Descend, but we're probably not too worried about the Descend right now. A Daze. Okay, so that's a blank for our opponent, which is good. So we can bounce off each other. I can't take my opponent off any colours because they've got 1 of each. But we can bounce off here and take 5. That's still pretty good for our opponent. I think we do need to bounce rather than block this, otherwise we're in a bit of trouble. Okay, we need a red source here. A Kaito, Bane of Nightmares. Our opponent has a Pyroblast. So they can Pyroblast this on the stack. They can't Pyroblast it if we ninjutsu it in. So I think the play here is we attack with the Nethergoyf. And we ninjutsu it in. It has hexproof, so they can't do anything this turn to it with the Pyroblast. So we crack for 3. We have to tap down a creature here. And then we play our Nethergoyf around the Daze. So they have to spend a mana on their turn to Pyroblast our Kaito. They could attack into it and chip it down a little bit, but I suspect this just gets Pyroblasted. So the information we got about them having Daze and stuff was pretty crucial. And we don't have to worry about Nethergoyf for another turn. They're both coming at me. I have to block here. Can we do with drawing a Barrowgoyf about now? An Orcish Bowmaster. That's pretty darn good, isn't it? So that's going to ping us down to 3. Oh, and then they're going to kill our Nethergoyf. Well, that's even worse. And then they're going to Pyroblast our Kaito. Pyroblast Kaito, please. Well, not please, but... Oh, they let us untap with Kaito. That's a mistake, because this has hexproof now. We can tap down this. How many things do we have? We have enough to bring back our guy. We're going to go to 1 here. Doesn't feel spectacular. So we want to Molten Collapse a creature. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. I guess we hit the Nethergoyf here. So this is the biggest creature. So this is black and red. Let's get that out of here. We know our opponent's cards in hand and they're not going to be relevant this turn. So we cast this with Escape. So we get rid of 1 of our artifacts, 1 of our creatures, 1 of our sorceries, and I guess it has to be a land. Take out an instant, I suppose, but is an instant better? No, we're about to put a land in the graveyard anyway, so we'll take out the Scalding Tarn. So we have a 4/5. And then this... this has to tap down our opponent's Orc army and kill itself. That's horrible, but that is what we're doing here. Am I taking out one of my opponent's lands so that it's harder for them to play a Kaito? 2 cards in hand. They're not attacking anyway. I think we'll leave the Wasteland right now. If they bring back this other Nethergoyf, they're gonna... So they got instant sorcery creature land. Yeah, so they're gonna shrink their other Nethergoyf if they bring this one back. Now next turn, their Nethergoyf untaps. And then we're in trouble. So we have a turn to find something. An Orcish Bowmasters would be probably the best draw in our deck at this point. It's 2 bodies, and it takes one of their bodies out of the way. We are dead to an opponent's Orcish Bowmaster. Alright, we'll pass and see if our opponent just swings out with everything. I suspect they will, and we'll win the game because of it. They might wait a turn just so they have the Orc army as well, in case there's any shenanigans. But we're keeping the last card in our hand in case we can bait our opponent into a mistake. Ponder. Really wish I had Orcish Bowmaster. They declined to shuffle, so we should be dead, is what you're telling me. A Molten Collapse. We are very dead. Okay. So... It is the full-on mirror. Does that change anything? I don't think it does. I think what we've got here is just fine. I don't really want any forces. I could take a Hydroblast over this Unlicensed Hearth. But I think I just like how we are here. I think this is fine. Like the Hydroblast can counter their Red Blasts and their Molten Collapses, but that's not really things that we want to be answering a lot of the time. 2 removal spells, 2 Orcish Bowmasters. Yeah, sure. Sign me up. This is some of the Magic the Gathering I like to play. I'm secretly a mono black deck this time around. A Bauble. Okay, so we don't get to punish that with an Orcish Bowmaster straight away. They targeted themselves with that one so they could see if they're shuffling their fetch or not. So let's go and grab ourselves Undercity Sewers, get that value. Nethergoyf, sure. That's the exact sort of card I want right now. Just something that we can apply some pressure with and force our opponent's hand to do some stuff while we're slowly beating down and being ahead. Alright, we have the first threat down. And unlike Bowmaster, this is the one that you want to get down before your opponent. Whereas your Bowmasters, you want to use it to kill your opponent's Bowmasters. So you end up in this weird little thing. So there was I think it was the first game of this round where our opponent was proactive with their Bowmaster. And it cost them. Alright, we're just going to attack with our Nethergoyf and see what happens. It's only 1 damage, so I'm not really expecting them to care about it. Or maybe they're going to go for like some sort of cheeky Bowmaster line. Sure, you can fail push that, and we'll just put a better creature into play. Aha! Tamiyo. Right, let's attack. Let's get Nethergoyf in. Let's keep the pressure up. So we've already got 1 card ahead of our opponent with this clue token. And Orcish Bowmasters. I'll get an Underground Sea, and I should probably get 1 of each, actually. That's probably smarter. Well, we'll get the Badlands here. And we'll also cast our Bowmasters too. Again, this is what I mean about the proactive Bowmaster plan. So we end up being the ones with the Bowmasters in. Now, they might have a Kaito that they're trying to put in, which would make you want to do this. And try and get some pressure going. Maybe you can pick off a guy, attack in, get the Kaito in. A Barrowgoyf, sure. That will die to our fail pushers. A Tamiyo, that can die to our fail pushers too. Or even better, we can Bauble so we don't even have to crack our clue straight away. Right, let's crack this and have a look at our opponent's top card of their library. It's a Scalding Tarn. Okay. I would like to kill this Barrowgoyf, please. Then I'd like to attack. With 2 creatures here. Gets us a clue. I'll draw a bonus card. Okay. I was hoping to get a land. Is the reason we did that. But having effectively 3 removal spells in hand is real good. Okay, so there's the land that we were trying to dig towards. Obviously, it's not a black land, so it didn't end up mattering, but still. Our opponent can attack with a Tamiyo and get a Kaito. That's probably the best thing they have available to them right now. Yeah, okay, so we predicted this play earlier on. We should have just fail pushed that instead of trying to get greedy with drawing a card there. I wonder how much damage that's going to do to our overall strategy. So they could just phase down, sorry, just tap down our Nethergoyf here. If they draw an extra card, we get to ping with Bowmasters, so they don't really want to do that unless they can kill our guy first. That is the way that kills our guy. So they can ping down our Bowmasters, then we can ping down their Bowmasters next turn. So now they're going to surveil and draw a card. Yep. I think we're going to have it off here a little bit. So we start off with Bowmasters, as is tradition. Ping down their Bowmasters. Push this out of the way. Go to attacks. This goes at Kaito, this goes at them, this goes at them. We get a nice little clue here. Kaito dies. And I'll just, oh no, we can't brainstorm because we used the wrong mana there. Whoops. Okay, slight misstep there. We're supposed to tap this one for the fatal push, not the Undercity Sewers. But we're obviously quite far ahead in this game. There's an Orcish Bowmasters. We have a fatal push for that one. There is a Tamiyo. There is the last card out of our opponent's hand. I think the most annoying thing on this board right now is the Bowmaster, so I'm just going to take that away while we know this is totally fine to resolve. Our opponent can crack a fetch, I suppose. Can crack their fetch, crack their clue, draw a card, maybe find a Daze if they're still running Daze. They shouldn't be running Daze though. A Brazen Borrower, you say. What are we doing here? If we swing out with everything, it's not going to go amazing due to their Nethergoyf. So I think I could bounce this. That doesn't feel amazing. If we bounce this out of the way, it does buy us some time. Or maybe we can just start clocking our opponent. So let's petty theft this out of the way. We get another clue here. This is a reasonable chunk of damage, so like half our opponent's life total. And then I'll cast a Brainstorm at this point. Oh, I know the coast is clear. Our opponent only has Nethergoyf in hand. These are good cards. I will put them back in this. I would quite like to get this Orcish Bowmaster in. Okay, we'll do it this way around. So this flips the Tamiyo. Tamiyo pluses. We cast another threat. And we are pretty solid here, because we can go and get back the Fatal Push to kill the Nethergoyf next turn, if we want to. We've also got 3 card draws stored up, so our opponent's going to draw a card here. I didn't draw the card at end step. Let's save this to flip the Tamiyo. A Ponder, okay. But we have a Orcish Bowmaster on top. So next time we can Bowmaster and push. And that's going to be a pretty solid turn. We can just keep rumbling with the damages here. Like, we have lethal damage in play if we can just clear their bits and pieces. Although they shrink these, there's only 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we don't have lethal even with a Bowmaster ping to the face. But we are in a solid position here. I imagine the Tamiyo is going to get a clue here. Unless they really... Yeah, they should always be getting a clue here because they're going to be able to flip it. And it's going to save a lot more damage if it's flipped than if it's just blocking a 2-2. A Brainstorm. Sure. If only we would have had the mana to get the Bowmaster down last turn instead of the Nethergoyf. But it is what it is. Alright, so they have a Tamiyo. We also have a Brazen Borrower waiting in the wings that we can rely on. It's like an additional wave of stuff. Now, we are 2 cards behind our opponent, but we have so much stuff on board that it makes up for that. So the best thing our opponent could do here would be Molten Collapse to kill our Nethergoyf and our Tamiyo, because Tamiyo is only a 1-mana Planeswalker. So we want to see those red lands not... Okay. So they're only just killing the Tamiyo on its own. Okay. And they have a Nethergoyf that we knew about. Okay. Their Nethergoyf is a 6-7, which is a lot. It's a pretty good turn for our opponent. So we have an Orcish Bowmasters. What are we supposed to do with our Orcish Bowmasters? So we can attack this way. We put through 3, 4, 5, 6 damage through to our opponent, and then they're dead on the crackback. I think we're just going to hold up our Bowmasters and our Borrower here. We can also crack some clues if we want. But they have a whole bunch of stuff they can get back as well now. Like you can get back another Molten Collapse or a Fatal Push or Ponder, Brainstorm. They're cracking their clue. 1 card in hand. Alright, I will fire in the Bowmasters now. Get that additional value. They'll probably crack the other clue in response. They did not. Interesting. I'm going to ping down this Tamiyo so it can't get a card back this turn. Because when this draws, we get to ping this. And their Tamiyo no longer can get them back anything. That's a quite nice exchange for us. Yep, so they can plus it up. There's Wasteland. Alright, it's our turn to walk into a Bowmaster, I guess. We did not walk into a Bowmaster. We drew the Barrowgoyf we knew about. Cool. So we can attack this time. So this is 3, 6, 9 damage coming in. So they block 1. I take 6. I think I just deploy a Barrowgoyf. And have like a nice lethal board for next turn. Our opponent drawing extra cards, obviously bad. They now get to buy back something. So they can buy back the Molten Collapse and take out one of our guys. Or they can buy back the Fatal Push and take out one of our guys. Those are the 2 good options they have available, but that means they're not shrinking our guys. Right, so they're getting back the Molten Collapse. So they're going to take out our Barrowgoyf. Right, they have a Wasteland, they're going to Wasteland one of our lands. This is also going to take a clue from us as well. So he's getting slightly more value on it. But they have 1 card left in hand. And they are dead on board, I believe. So we attack with everything. If they block this, they take 4, 8, 9 because their Tamiyo didn't plus. Alright, let's just swing for the fences. Let's attack them with all of our guys. We can also get an extra point damage through this Bowmaster. So this is 4, 8, 9 damage. Now drawing a card, which is then going to ping them with our Bowmaster. And we got the match, and we got the trophy. Nice. Cool. Well, clearly this deck is very strong. And it's easy to see how we just want to challenge, but let's have a look at it. So you do give up quite a lot to be able to play the Molten Collapse and these in the sideboard. However, in a world where Barrowgoyf is one of the most played creatures right now, I think having more reliable ways of killing it in Molten Collapse and another Molten Collapse over here is really important. This also flexes into killing Murktide Regent. If you notice, all of these cards kill Murktide Regent, which is something that we only have like 1 permanent answer to in our main deck, and then we have this. Obviously, Kaito can tap it down as well. Which brings us on to another point. We are not running Murktide Regent ourselves, which is kind of interesting. But I certainly understand why, because we want to keep our Goyf sort of doing its thing, and having more cards makes our Tamiyo better as well. So I understand the deck building synergy there, and it does work. Although sometimes it is nice to go, here is my massive flyer that you basically can't interact. Like, you know, it's going to kill you in 1 turn, and we can just protect it and just get over the hump. We don't really have that sort of thing very much, but we are just cracking in with massive Barrowgoyfs, which is kind of what the format is about right now. Not having basic lands is definitely, not having a basic of each colour of our main colours is definitely a cost. But I think the upside of running the Pyroblasts and the Molten Collapses is too great to worry about that. I do think that this is significantly better than the Blue-Black Tempo build. I think if you're running just straight up Blue-Black Tempo, you should be running Blue-Black Reanimator, which I think is actually really good right now. And it keeps putting up some good numbers already. So I think if you want to be playing like a tempo-y Sheoldred, this is kind of like the bigger, slightly more controlling-y one. And then you have the Corey Steel card, which is the more aggressive one. I think if you're playing some sort of tempo strategy, those are the 2 decks you should be playing. And then, unless you want to play Reanimator, which is kind of like hybrid tempo, hybrid combo. But keep it in your mind when you're seeing, the normal play plan from a blue-black deck that they could also be running things like Molten Collapse in. This deck from Frijat was obviously, taking them to win a challenge, and we managed a trophy with it. And Grixis Tempo decks have had 12 top 8s since Tarkir Dragonstorm came out. So clearly this is one of the best things to be doing. The only decks that have more top 8s than this are Oops All Spells and the Blue-Red Delta deck. And the Blue-Red Delta deck only has, I think, one more, so they're very close. But yeah, it's not a bad time to be playing Tempo. With so many annoying combo decks running around, you kind of do need to have like your let's not lose the game interaction stuff early on. And as you saw against the Oops All Spells player, we did just manage to force a ball check and beat them in one of the games. And just having that option is really good. It does mean that a lot of non-blue decks are kind of shoved out the format because there's this horrible turn 0 combo deck that you have to respect. Nevertheless, though, outside of some things like that, I think this is quite a fun format at the moment, and this deck is pretty solid. And if it's your sort of jam, I would recommend playing it because it is very strong and you have a lot of tools to work with. We did not even play perfectly today by any stretch of the imagination. There's a couple of misses that nearly cost us games, actually, that we could have sharpened up on. But that's streamer brain for you. All right, I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe. And again, if you want any cards from this particular deck, then check out 3-for-1 Trading. The link is in the description. They support the Legacy community, so why not support them back by buying some of their wonderful wares. All right, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths, as well as 3 tiers of support. A low-cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month, as well as regular articles, and lastly, the higher tier gives you all of the above, as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.